So with the back on and completed, the next thing to do is to start getting ready to put the binding on this guitar. And so in my tabletop mounted router here, I put a straight bit with a bearing on it in here, which we're going to use to run around and trim off the overhang of both the back and the top. Now you want to be careful, especially on the top, when you're running around that, because when you get to the outside curved pieces, and you're running along, you get too much overhang there. It's easy to have them catch and rip a whole strip out and have it come into the soundboard. So on those, kind of work backwards a bit and nibble away at it, so you don't really rip out on the soundboard. Now, in particular, you want to check all around the edges on the side to make sure you don't have any bumps or glue squeeze out that are sitting there, because when we go to route the channel to house the binding in the side, we're going to register the jig against the side, and any little blips or imperfections there, like a little hunk of glue, will cause a little blip in your binding channel, which is not a good thing. Once you have that cleaned up now you have to just make some decisions about what kind of binding you're going to put on the guitar. Now I mentioned way back when, during materials, that I had some curly sycamore strips here. And I'm going to go ahead and use these because I think the white sycamore will be in lovely contrast against the dark brown walnut sides. Now these strips, I bought these, but you can certainly make them yourself if you have the wood. They're just 2 millimeters by 8 millimeters in dimension, and I quite often will cut those out of cherry or something, or walnut if I have a different color scheme in my guitar. But I'm going to use those, and they look great against the side and against the back, against the walnut dark. But on the top, I mean, they're almost the same color as the spruce top when they go on there, and when the binding goes around the edge, you're not going to see any contrast, or very little contrast, between the binding and the top. So what I have then decided to do is take these very thin strips of Western red cedar, which I have used just as a coloration, and they're actually going to go in the channel between the binding and the soundboard, and it puts a little dark brown stripe all the way along between the two white woods to help them stand out a little better. This Western red cedar, I cut these myself on the table saw, just setting the blade as almost as close to the fence as I can get it, and running those through from a piece of Western red cedar I have. And as long as you cut, the precise dimension of it, it's a little less than a millimeter, maybe 3/4 of a millimeter. The precise dimension of this is not critical as long as you cut everything you need for this guitar in the same setup. So I've cut all 4 strips I could potentially need without moving the fence or anything in the table saw, because I'd never go back and get the fence set up the same way as I had it. Now, as it turns out, I probably only use 2 of these strips, one around each side of the top, because I don't really need this contrasting wood anywhere else, but I cut 4 just in case I break one or something like that, because they're very thin and fragile. Now, before you can put the binding on, this area here where we have the seam in the side at the tail of the guitar, we're going to put a decorative strip to cover up that seam. We're going to actually route a channel over here, and typically you make it an angled channel, so it'll have like a trapezoid shape, wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. And you have to decide what wood's going to go in there as well, and part of your design process. And remember in my rosette, I used a piece of cypress knee with some nice grain for my center ring here. Well, I've got lots of that cypress, and I'm going to use that. And I'm going to cut a piece out of it, and it's going to go on the back here for what they call the end patch or end graft as well. So to cut the channel for this end patch that's going to go in here, get the guitar body mounted up like this. I mean, I've got two clamps this way clamping the guitar body, and then I got other clamps clamping those clamps down my work board. So the guitar sits like this. Doesn't have to be, I mean, it's just gonna have to get a line this way. So what I've done now is, again, I've marked the center line of the top and of the back, and if you're lucky and you've done your job right, they will line up. Chances they will line up absolutely perfectly. Anyway. So try and pick a center line that's vertical and averages the two of those marks. More importantly, if you have put a decorative strip down the back of your guitar, that's where you'll notice this thing not being centered. So favor the back stripe in your centering if you need to. Now, so what I do when I'm doing this is I make my graft a 1/2 inch wide here at the bottom, or towards the back of the guitar, and 3/4 of an inch wide at the top. So I've marked those out and just join them with pencil lines along here. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to take actually and score those with my X-Acto knife, because I'm going to end up pre-routing this out with my Dremel. And I mean, you could take and clamp a piece of wood on here to act as a guide for the Dremel and all that kind of stuff, but I don't find it's necessary. At least I haven't so far. Let's see what happens with this one. I may change my tune. Now, having finished the routing there, just about up to the line I made, I'm now just taking my chisel and trimming those sides out. Good. Now next, you're going to want to lay out on your whatever piece of wood you're going to use for this patch. Lay it out using the same dimension you used here. Now then take and cut that out on whatever, the bandsaw, whatever you want to do. Staying a bit from the line, and then take it to the bench sander and sand down to the line, or just outside of the line. You don't have to go right into that line, you can leave it a bit wide, and you'll see why in a few seconds. So I've taken that, and I've left my piece extra long, and I'm still almost a 1/16 outside the line. Now, then you want to slide it down here, and I can see I'm too wide now, I can't get in all the way. But by sliding into the slot, you ensure it's going to be tight. Now I can see that although I'm tight here at the bottom, I'm not tight at the top. So that means the angles that I've cut on my patch piece are not exactly the same as the angles I have on my channel. So we'll go back to the bench sander and just correct slightly with that. In my case, I'm going to make it a little steeper in here as we narrow it down.